Hey everybody, happy Wednesday, happy February, and welcome back to the Nourished and Thriving Show. Thanks for joining us tonight. I know last week we had an ice-pocalypse, ice-mageddon, however you want to describe it here in Texas. And so I shared an older video with you guys. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it, but we are back and we're live tonight. And we're talking about why pain isn't necessarily a damage meter all week. Hopefully you were able to watch Dr. Leak's show on Monday, the Dr. Dustin show, and Jose's show yesterday, Baseball Strong. They both shared really good perspectives. I'm a little bit honestly intimidated coming in here tonight after watching their shows because they did such a phenomenal job. But I'm going to do my best. I think I have a lot to contribute to this conversation too. But seriously, if you missed those shows, I know we get busy. They're up here on the YouTube channel. Go back, do some chores at home and listen to them with your AirPods or whatever while you're doing that. But tonight we're talking about pain, and as a registered dietitian, you may be like, wait, why is a registered dietitian talking about pain? But there's a lot of pain involved with nutrition, and nutrition is very involved in the inflammatory process, which can drive a lot of pain. So we're going to get into a lot of that tonight. And we're going to talk about how pain doesn't always necessarily reflect the amount of tissue damage. We think of pain being caused by a cut or, some sort of a wound or something we can see a lot of the time. And that's just not always the case. Stress, inflammation, the nervous system all play a role. And it can really turn up the volume on sensitivity and influence how we experience pain, basically. So that's kind of a common belief, is that pain means something is broken or cut or wounded or something like that. And one of the problems with that thought process is it's not always true. So there's not something to fix whenever you're thinking like that, and it feels like you don't have any control over the situation, which can very quickly lead you feeling helpless or hopeless, and just frustrated and kind of at a loss. So I don't know, write in the comments if you guys have ever felt that feeling before. So hopefully tonight, by the end of our show, we're going to give you some action steps, some things that you can do to influence that pain sensation that maybe you're feeling. So, and, kind of to echo what has been said this week too, and what will be said tomorrow in Keith's show, I know he's going to say this, and I have not seen his bullet points, but I know him well enough to know, that, pain is real, even when imaging and tests don't necessarily show something that is going to, explain why you're experiencing that pain. Dr. Leak talked about this extensively on Monday. He talked about the 3 different types of pain and MRIs and testing, and it really did a great job of explaining all of that. Before we get too deep into this conversation, though, I am going to give a huge caveat. I am a registered dietitian. I know a lot about food. I know a lot about systems biology and physiology. I'm not a pain physician. I'm not a pain neuroscience educator or anything like that. I'm not here to contradict what your doctors are saying or give you a long list of supplements or anything like that. I'm not here to give personalized advice for you, medical advice. This is just general information. And I have a lot to contribute because I work with many people whose symptoms are whose symptoms that they're experiencing, sorry, I got tongue-tied there, are influenced by those things that I mentioned earlier on. Inflammation, stress, gut health is a huge one. We're going to talk all about that in a minute, and just metabolic strain and burden. And those really affect the pain that we're experiencing, the pain that is happening in our bodies. So today we're talking about, again, summarizing that, just how inflammation can amplify those pain signals and what supportive habits can help you to reduce that pain level. So let's talk a little bit about pain. And I turned up this knob, this pretend knob a minute ago, and what that is and how it can kind of be this dial, and how nutrition and lifestyle affect those things. So people sometimes, I think we're becoming better educated on this topic now, but sometimes people think about nutrition as it's just calories, it's just a meal plan, it's just food. But food literally affects every single thing in your body. It's not just, the number on the scale. It's not just calories. Food is truly information, and it's telling your body what to do. There's a really cool book that I'm going to talk about here in a minute, but it talks about our microbiome and the microbial cells in our body. We actually only have about 1% of our DNA is human DNA, and 99% of the DNA in and on our body is microbial DNA. It's crazy. And humans take like thousands of years to evolve and change our genetics, but microorganisms, these little bacteria and organisms living in and on our body, they can mutate like in a day and change in a day. And they're influenced by the inputs of our bodies. So our food, our stress, our sleep, relationships, interactions with other people. It's pretty us. We'll talk more about that here in a second. Inflammation and stress can increase our sensitivity, so how we're experiencing the pain, which can really explain why, testing all looks fine, but I hurt. Or, it's hard for me to get around. It's hard for me to do the things that I want to do. And kind of like Jose was talking about last night on his show, when your body feels threatened, it tries to protect itself. So Jose did a great job talking about that with pain, and your body wants to like hole up in a cave and not do anything to protect itself from that pain. We're creatures of comfort. We seek comfort. But whenever your body feels under threat, those symptoms can feel louder because it wants you to stay comfortable and protect yourself. And your body can feel under threat by all of those things we were just talking about. So nutrition, lifestyle, stress, all of that, feels threatening to your body. And especially, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this image before. I'm going to use my little water cup here for an image, but everyone has like a stress bucket or a stress cup, and that's your unique capacity to handle and manage stress in your life. And some people's cups are really small cups and some are bigger cups. We all have different capacities for what we're able to handle. But your body doesn't necessarily differentiate one stressor from another. It's all just stress, and it's all filling up your cup. So whether it is, emotional stress, relational stress on your diet from, not getting the nutrients that your body needs through the diet that you're eating, not getting enough sleep, medication that is causing, necessary, but maybe it's causing stressors on other parts of your body. All of that can fill up that stress cup and affect your body's ability to cope. We're learning more and more about, our body's capacity to deal with stress, how different body systems interact with each other. We have kind of been going from this space, medicine is evolving and health is evolving, right? Like we don't know what we don't know. If you think about the leaps and bounds that medicine has made in the last 100, 200 years, it's really incredible. And it's incredible how complex the body is. And it's incredible how much we still don't probably understand or know about the body. But there were just doctors before, right? And now there's like all these super hyper specialists focusing on just one body system at a time. And I think we are having a better understanding now of how these different systems interact with each other and able to zoom out and see the big picture and understand how they all interact together. instead of just in a silo. And so we're really understanding more about the gut and the gut-brain axis and how those things are working together, and then how they affect the rest of the body. And this isn't about pain being in your head. That's been talked about a lot this week too. And I think in the past, and maybe even still currently, right? Psychological, pain, imagined pain that doesn't have a physical explanation. It feels like maybe it's being dismissed, but mindset actually has a huge impact on how we feel and how we present and the pain that we're experiencing. And the gut actually influences the pain that our brains come up with and create too. There's actually a physical connection. It's just not always really easy to test for or understand. We're going to get more into that too. How are we doing on time? We're doing good. I'm on track. Thanks, Kevin. Okay, so I have 3 kind of main truths that I want to share with you guys about all of that. Now that I've set up some basic information and laid some good groundwork for you guys. So 3 truths that I want to lay out. So truth number 1 is something I mentioned, but we're going to go a little more into it. So pain is not just damage. Pain is protection, right? So kind of thinking about our little stress cups again, where, when our stress cups become full or close to full, our bodies don't want it to overflow, and not be able to cope or function any longer. And so it's going to try and protect us from experiencing additional stress. And so, like I said, Dr. Leek did such a good job explaining the different types of pain in his show on Monday. I didn't know about those different types of pain. Did you know about those, Kevin, before? Maybe you knew. You may have been
maybe 2 of them.
2 of them, 2 of the 3. Yeah. I mean, if you're not in that world, you don't fully understand all of that. So I really appreciated that. Sometimes that pain is acute, right? Like he was explaining. Sometimes that sensation of pain or that need to protect something is accurate. Like Jose mentioned too, you have an elbow surgery or a shoulder surgery or, an injury. There is a period of time where you do need to take it easy and protect that injury or that wound so that it can heal like it needs to. But sometimes that alarm kind of stays sensitive even after you're healed. Jose talked about that, about kind of overprotecting that pain. And okay, now my hip hurt. Well, now my other hip and my knee hurts too, because I'm kind of putting strain on those things from walking funny. And so that can happen with a lot of things, with, social life, nutrition. I have patients where they're so scared to eat because they've had like GI symptoms or a lot of food sensitivities that they're down to eating like 4 or 5 different foods, trying to protect themselves. But what that ultimately does is it just causes more and more food sensitivities because they're not actually fixing the problem, which is often their microbiome and gut barrier function and all of that. But, so sometimes there is this like actual physical process, but when that alarm kind of stays elevated, that stress cup stays full, it doesn't fully get released afterwards, is when it can really hinder our quality of life and negatively impact our quality of life. There's kind of a metaphor I like to use too. I like to speak in analogies and metaphors and examples because I think it helps us to remember it better. But pain can kind of be like a smoke alarm, right? Or like a breaker. This is a better example too because this is a lived experience. So we have a newer home and we added some plugs in whenever we moved in. I think it was done by a electrician, either that or my dad, who's an engineer and thinks he's an electrician. But we have these sensitive breakers in our kitchen. I learned last week when I was we have 3 kids, right? So I'm trying to make 3 lunches and 3 breakfasts in a very short amount of time in the morning. And I learned we cannot use the toaster oven and the toaster at the same time. Looking at Kevin. We can't use the toaster oven and the toaster at the same time because it trips the breaker. There was no threat of fire There was no threat of explosion by using these two home appliances, but the breaker is too sensitive. And so it shut off, and it's obnoxious because it's cold in the garage and we have to go flip the other way. But our bodies can be like that with pain. They can have an overreaction to this pain, right? Where it's just super sensitive. Kind of IBS symptom example again is in some patients with like an IBS, like an irritable bowel syndrome, they experience pain in their abdomen from just normal gut movements. What is normal in somebody else experiences it as pain. So that's kind of a body physical example of that pain, knob being turned up too high, or the kitchen breaker being overly sensitive. So that's the first kind of truth, right, of the three that I was going to share. So pain is not just damage, it's protection. So taking that truth kind of a step further of what do I do with this information? I always don't love information just for the sake of information. We have to do something with the information, is to ask yourself this question. If you are experiencing pain, what is your body trying to protect you from? Okay, if you don't have an acute injury, what is your body trying to protect you from? Maybe it's a whole list of things. Maybe your stress cup is full and overflowing with a whole lot of different things. And we'll get into more action steps in a minute, but I have to give it to you right now too, because I want to make sure you get it. So what is your body trying to protect you from? Write them down. And then, which ones can you control? Which ones can you change? Which things on those lists? Some things are out of your control, but some things maybe you can make some adjustments to reduce that stress load on your body. Truth number 2 is inflammation can turn up that signal. Inflammation in our body can make that kitchen breaker even more sensitive. It can make that pain sensor even more sensitive and turn that dial up. Sometimes whenever I am a very visual person, so sometimes whenever I'm speaking with patients and listening to their stories, I'm just kind of picturing what's happening in their bodies as they're speaking. And whenever somebody is telling me about a lot of different kind of inflammatory processes, I just picture this like burning, this body just burning with inflammation, just everything's kind of on fire. And it's not actually on fire, right? But it just feels like, it's just hot and heavy and, inflamed, right? Just like aggravated. And inflammation can affect the nerves in your bodies and the soft tissues in your body. And systemic inflammation can make your entire body feel more reactive. So if you're a person who has a ton of different allergies, food sensitivities, aches and pains, you get cold, a cold, not cold like temperature wise, maybe you do, but like sick at the drop of a hat, constantly. These are all kinds of signs of just maybe some systemic inflammation. Your body is overreacting to stimuli. And the pain and the inflammation can flare with, all kinds of lifestyle stressors and food stressors. So poor sleep, emotional stress, mental stress, blood sugar swings, gut microbiome, an imbalanced gut microbiome or an inflamed gut microbiome, inflamed gut lining, low nutrient quality diet. All of those things can just drive this inflammation up. And so if you have several of those things going on at once, you've really got just a lot going against you whenever you're trying to look at reducing pain, reducing inflammation. So this is where nutrition can be really supportive, not necessarily a cure, right? If you, have like a diagnosed condition, but it can be part of lowering that overall stress burden in your body. Again, controlling what we can control, and focusing on those things. And I think that focusing on, controlling what you can control and changing what you can change, that's going to help your mental well-being too, which has been talked about this week as well, and just help you feel, better in your body, and reduce that pain. So that's number 2, truth number 2. So let me recap 1 and 2, and then we'll get to 3. So 1 is pain is not just damage, it's protection. And you're going to go ask yourself, well, what is your body trying to protect you from? And what can you control on that list? What can you do about it? Truth 2 is that inflammation can turn up that signal. Again, like going back to that list of what is your body trying to protect you from, that can give you some really big indicators of what might be driving some inflammation in your body. And then truth number 3 is that stress amplifies this pain perception. We're going to talk about some stress too. I actually took a class on mindset coaching a couple years ago. I don't know if you knew that or not, Kevin, about me. But it was really interesting. And whenever you're working with patients making food and nutrition and lifestyle changes, you have to get into the mindset, or else you're going to be handing out really great plans and nothing is going to get implemented, because so much of the battle is actually happening in our minds. So we really become what we believe we are. We become what and who we believe we are. Our thoughts cause our actions a lot of the time. Vincent van Gogh, I have a quote from Vincent van Gogh, said, "I dream my painting, then I paint my dream." You know, we have to think about what it is that we want to create first. And a lot of this actually happens on a subconscious level. We're not even aware that we're thinking these thoughts. And then we, go create what we're thinking about. And a lot of this is wrapped up in our identity, who we believe we are, who we believe we are not, who we believe we're capable of, what we believe we're capable of doing or not doing, what we think we should do, what we think we should not do, all of that. And it's, really interesting how all of that develops over our entire lifelong journey. A lot of it happens really early on by our environment really early on, but then just through different lived experiences, it helps shape our identity. So taking a step back and asking yourself, who do I believe I am? What do I believe I'm capable of doing or not doing? If you catch yourself saying things like, oh, I can't do that. Oh, I shouldn't do that. Those are really good clues into what your identity believes about those things. And so just being really careful about the thoughts that we're allowing to direct our actions is going to be really helpful to reduce that stress and reduce that pain perception. One thing that Dr. Leek also spoke about is the time that we should focus on. So we can't control what's already happened. We can't control what's going to happen for sure. The only thing that we can change or can do something about or take action towards is the present, or what we hope to happen, what we're working towards happening. We can take actions intentionally towards that, but we can't control the future. We can't control the past. And so just trying to stay focused on the present is, really the best way to go about mindset stuff. And then, like I said too, that I kind of already said this, but I didn't say part of it, so I'm going to say it because it's a good example. Part of it is not, thinking about feeling trapped by what you should do or who you should be. Pretty much every Disney princess movie talks about this. So I am listening. Trapped between who you think you should be or who society tells you should be and who you feel called to be or what you desire to be, right? Like Pocahontas, Mulan, Cinderella, they're all like, there's that dynamic battle within of who they've been told they are versus who they want to become.
I don't know why I thought you were going to bring in the prince.
No, it's all about the princess. But like Hercules, I'll give you that. Hercules, who he, the Disney movie Hercules
Touché.
is cute,
Good job.
right?
Right.
Who he was born and grew up believing who he was versus who he actually was. And he had some turmoil with that too. But I think any good hero story goes through that. So you can become the hero of your own story by stepping in and taking action towards you, taking bold action, right? I bet pretty much every hero was scared whenever they were first taking action, but they did it anyway. So there's my inspiring Disney princess story for you today. But really, mindset is tremendously impactful in our physical bodies. It's we can joke about it, but it's very, very, very important. Chronic stress, thinking about stress too. Like, what are we normally stressed about? We're normally not super stressed about what's happening right this second, unless you're like running from a saber-toothed tiger or there's a tornado touching down. We live in Texas. But then you're like taking action against those things, right? It's when we get into that rumination of the past or anxious spirit, anxiety feelings about the future, that we feel really stressed, emotionally. Maybe you feel overwhelmed on a daily basis too, but a lot of the time still it's what happened in the past, what's going to happen, what might happen in the future. And those things can really keep our nervous system running on high alert and keep that adrenaline and cortisol running high. And those stress hormones, neurotransmitters, all of that add tension to your body. We're not recovering. We're not ever releasing that stress. We're just living through it. We're kind of, head down, gritting it out, really increase our sensitivity to the pain and anything else that gets added on. It just causes our, continuing to use this example, stress cup to overflow. And then gut symptoms often flare during high stress too. So that is a physical response to that high stress. So we can talk more about that here in a minute. But that's truth number 3, is that stress amplifies the pain perception. And it's really why stress management is not something extra to do or nice to do. It is really, really a necessary part of symptom support and management. And everyone says, oh, just stop stressing out. And I know that it's easier said than done, but it does take work. It does take an investment in your health, like Jose was talking about last night too. Our bodies are, like what he said, the most valuable thing that we have. And so if we're not investing in our bodies, what are we able to do? And so it's really important.
Something that I'm hearing over and over and over again that I find shocking.
What's that?
I remember Dr. Leek saying something about pain being in your head. Mm-hmm. And more as these streams come, I'm hearing change your mind, change your stress level, which is in the brain, change something about what the brain is doing, and bang, pain gone, or at least pain solved to some degree.
Improved. Yeah, I mean, it's so important. Like I said, I took a mindset coaching certification course on it because I just was like, I've got to help my patients get past those limiting beliefs, those things, they're coming back every session struggling with the same thing. Oh, no, I didn't take action towards that goal because of this. And it's the same thing. You got to find ways to help people work through that. It's important. Those identities are very entrenched, in us. We've been believing those a long time.
I'm curious of something.
Yeah.
Just a sample of 10 patients that you've had. What overall percentage would you say 90-10, 5-95, 5% in their head, 95% actual physical or some sort of other pain? Or would you say the majority would be probably head case related, and if this could be solved, the other pain could subside really quickly?
That's a hard question to answer. I would say, I think it's the second brain, which is the gut, driving a lot of these conversations. And we're going to get into that in a second. So stick with me for a minute and maybe it'll blow your mind.
I'm right here.
My mind was blown actually when I first discovered all this information, and I could not stop and made it a huge part of my practice. So it's pretty important. So that is the vagus nerve, the gut-brain connection, the microbiome, all of that. So I focused in my practice for a long time pretty much solely on GI symptoms because the gut is so integral to overall health. And it really affects everything in our body. I think, if you go to any of these specialists, and work on finding the root cause, but the gut is not addressed, you're never going to find full resolution of your symptoms. It's that important. You have to address gut health alongside everything, because there is an axis with your gut with every other system in your body. Like I said, we're 99% microbial DNA, 1% human DNA. The microbes in your gut are controlling a lot of things in your body. They actually make like 80% of the serotonin. I may have said that 2 weeks ago. Like 80% of the serotonin is actually made by the microorganisms in your gut. Serotonin is like the feel-good chemical in your body that makes us feel happy. One of them.
So gut happy, body happy.
Gut happy, body happy a lot of the time. Yeah. Another example, again, I like to speak in examples. So say you have this like condemned building that needs to get torn down so that you can, build something else or make a park or whatever. If you want to tear that building down, the fastest way, you're going to get like a wrecking ball, or I don't know, my son would like this, like some explosions. You're going to like implode the building first. Can you imagine if you had this like huge old warehouse building and you took a hammer and a chisel to try and take it apart brick by brick, how long that would take? I would say that focusing on the gut first is like the building implosion, and then you can kind of go in and remove by hand the rest of the stuff. But really fixing your gut fixes so many other things. It has a really huge effect on the rest of your body. But like IBS pain, like irritable bowel syndrome pain, it can feel extremely intense. I would say it's probably not the number one reason that people would come to me for gut health stuff. Like obviously, like, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, that kind of stuff is a lot more, like it can affect their life a lot more outwardly, I guess, if that makes sense. But pain is definitely up there with IBS stuff. Sometimes there's no visible tissue damage. If I had $1 for every time a patient came and said to me, I went to the GI doc, they said colonoscopy, endoscopy, all looked fine. It's in your head. You have IBS, and that, so there's no tissue damage visible to these doctors, but their patient is experiencing pain. A lot of the time it's this gut brain signaling via the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve means the wandering nerve. So, I should have sent you a picture, Kevin. I'm the worst. It goes,
see if we can find some vagus nerves.
It's VAGUS.
I am so happy you did that too.
You're welcome. But it goes from your brain all the way down your torso, and it has all these little branches, and it innervates all these different organs. It goes into your heart, your, GI tract, all of that. And it's how your body organs connect with each other and talk with each other. And it's cool because it's a two-way street. So your brain does send signals down to your gut, down to the rest of your body. But your gut sends signals up to your brain as well, with neurotransmitters that your microbiome actually produced by the food that you're breaking down, by the food that your microbiome is breaking down. So based on what food you're inputting into your body, based on the types of organisms you have in your gut, that determines which neurotransmitters are made and what messages get communicated back into the brain. So that can be things like eat more carbs and sugar. It can be stop eating, we've had enough food. It can be I'm feeling really sad and down and out. It can be I'm feeling really happy and satisfied and content with my life. Our microbiome controls and sends all of those messages to our brain. So who's really driving the ship, right? Your microbiome has a huge say with that.
What do you think of this here real quick? I found something interesting. You tell me.
Yeah. That's it. That's
okay.
The vagus nerve. So you can see how it branches out into, really everything. You can see it kind of innervating into the heart, the lungs, look at all of those different touch points all throughout the GI tract. So liver, gallbladder, stomach, spleen, pancreas, large and small intestine, kidneys, rectum, bladder. I mean, literally everything is connected to that vagus nerve. But the microbiome in that large intestine actually creates neurotransmitters that travel up that nerve back up to your brain. So it's a two-way street. And so influencing your microbiome is really important. And the vagus nerve helps us experience pain in all of those organs. So if someone has like the visceral hypersensitivity, which is what an excessively sensitive experience of pain is, right? Like I mentioned earlier, people who have IBS can experience normal gut movements and just existence basically as pain. It registers as pain in their body. That's called visceral hypersensitivity. It's influenced by that vagus nerve and that activity that's happening there. So the pain is real in that instance, but it's not necessarily a symptom of tissue damage, if that makes sense, kind of going back to the core message of this week there. I have a few other key like mechanisms if you're interested in gut health, which you should be because it's really cool. How the microbiome increases pain. So one of them is leaky gut and systemic inflammation. So based on your microbiome helps produce food for your gut lining. Your gut lining is kind of like the bouncer at the club. He says what gets to come into the body and what has to stay out in the gut. The inside of your gut is actually the outside world. So that gut barrier keeps out what needs to be kept out, lets in what like nutrients, what needs to be let in. If the gut barrier is compromised, things get into your body that shouldn't be there. Toxins, lipopolysaccharide is one of those toxins produced by certain types of organisms. They create an immune response in your body because it's foreign. It's not supposed to be there. So your body flags it as, hey, this is a threat, right? We talked about things that are threatening your body that cause it to want to protect itself. Then it turns up that inflammatory fire, which can then be kind of widespread chronic pain. So leaky gut, systemic inflammation, neuroactive metabolites. We mentioned that a minute ago. Dysbiotic bacteria produce different things as they're breaking down our food. And some of those can influence nerves in our body, which actually influence our pain sensitivity and how much pain we're experiencing. Immune system modulation, I mentioned that a minute ago through the leaky gut. But that dysbiosis, the imbalance of the bacteria, too much of one type, not enough of another type, can really cause a lot of inflammation. Gut-brain axis disruption, we mentioned that if we have too many organisms creating one type of neurotransmitter, not enough creating a different one, the messages getting sent to our brain are not going to be health promoting. They're going to be more inflammatory. And then this is really interesting too. Imbalances in the microbiome actually are associated with some test results. It's a correlation, right? I don't think it's been proven as a causation, but there's a correlation and association with certain inflammatory markers, such as interleukin-6, which is linked to musculoskeletal pain. So it's the very baby stages of research on exactly how the microbiome is affecting our health. But I'm really excited about what we know right now and what we will know in the future. It's pretty cool. Again, the book that I mentioned earlier, about all of the vagus nerve, that gut-brain connection, it really rocked my world when I first read it. I sound like such a nerd. I'm sorry, Charlotte, if you're watching, my 10-year-old daughter, you're going to be embarrassed. It's called The Psychobiotic Revolution by John Cryan and Scott C. Anderson. But it's the Psycho, Biotic, BIOTIC revolution. And it's all about that gut-brain axis, how different organisms affect our bodies, our brain health, our body health, chronic diseases, all of that. So if you like a good science read, I highly recommend it. Let's see. So I wanted to give, another kind of just example of what this might look like in real life. So a couple of patient examples, how this might look. Oh, there's the book. You did it. I love it. Well, I was
Better
a little
late than never.
You guys, I sent that picture to Kevin like 2 minutes before we went live. So thank you, Kevin. That's what the cover looks like. I just wanted you guys to be able to see it so that if you wanted to order it, you can have it. Maybe we can like link it in the comments after the show or something too. It's a really good book. It was really well written. Lots of research articles linked and all of that stuff. So really, really well done. But a couple of just real life scenarios was, having somebody who had worse pain during high periods of anxiety, poor sleep, irregular meals, right? If you're highly stressed out, you may be skipping meals, eating a heavier meal and then skipping a meal, or you're rushed all day and don't eat, and then you eat, 3 servings of dinner as you're starving at that point. I think it's really important when we're feeling increased pain. We're often not aware of what's changed, so maybe you'd been doing okay. And then the last few weeks, you're like, man, I hurt when I get out of bed in the morning. It hurts to walk. I can't play on the ground with my kids anymore. I can't go on my walks with my dog anymore. Like, this stinks. I think it's really important to stop and think about, okay, what has changed in the last however long? And this inflammatory process probably started before you started experiencing the increased pain. So I think that's a mistake people make sometimes, is they just look at, what's happening right here today. But these, our bodies really do a pretty good job of managing things, right? Remember, we have a stress cup. So like when you're down here, you may not be experiencing pain, but then over the last few weeks, maybe something else has been happening that's caused that to go up. Maybe, daycare was booked and kids have been sick, and, you had a massive email security issue at work. I'm just totally making up a few random situations that would all just kind of pile on each other. But maybe that was a month ago and you thought it was resolved and it just hasn't been.
And while you list that, they're asking in the chat if I can pull that right back up
Sure.
for them one time.
Oh, the book.
Correct.
Yay, y'all are going to read it. It's a good one.
They want to take a screen grab.
Cool. It's a good book. For sure. But yeah,
so here you go, chat. Let's see if we can push that through. There we go.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys grab that book. It's a really good one. It even talks about like chronic like mental illness, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, depression, like all of that stuff, and how it's influenced by the microbiome. It's pretty cool. I think it's a little bit of an older book now, actually. I read it maybe 7 or 8 years ago, but it's still good. Like, it's one that I continue to reread, which I don't do with a ton of books, but it's a good reminder. It makes me feel like really inspired reading it. Hopefully it does too. If you guys read it, let me know what you think. It's a good one. But yeah, so if you're experiencing an increase in pain or an increase in symptoms, change in symptoms, ask yourself, what was happening in the few weeks before those things started to get worse again? Because that might be where your answer lies, actually. Let's see here. I want to give you guys some practical steps to take. You guys know I love action with information. So one of those was already asking yourself, how is my body protecting me with this pain? Write down, or what is it protecting me from? Write down those things, maybe circle or highlight or whatever, the things that you feel like maybe you could most easily change or control or let go of, and start there. 3 other things that you can do are balance your blood sugar. Balance your blood sugar and support digestion, right? Chew your food, slow down. It takes 30 minutes for that little signal from your stomach to go up your vagus nerve and get to your brain that it's had enough food.
That's the single hardest part for me right there.
Yeah.
Some food tastes way too good to just chew.
Well, especially if you're not eating enough or like frequently enough and you're hungry, right? And you're just like, oh, give me this food. I get it, but really try to force yourself to put your fork down between bites, slow down, chew to applesauce consistency. By chewing your food, it supports supports all of the digestion. It supports your microbiome. It supports, really everything. It helps you get in that kind of rest and digest state, which can break that stress cycle that we're all living in.
Chewing everything to applesauce consistency.
Yep.
How many chews is that?
About 20 to 30 chews per bite. I'm so glad you asked. Sit there and count. That's a really great first step is, the first 3 bites of every meal for the next 3 days. Yeah, chew.
That's a lot of chewing.
It's a lot of
That's
chewing.
a lot of chewing.
I bet you'll eat a lot less food if you have to chew it that much too, right?
Head scratcher. You're right. You're probably right.
Yeah, I know I'm right. No, I'm kidding.
I'm wondering if I would even really enjoy it even more. I mean, half the pleasure of eating is finishing.
You think?
I think so, yeah. You see a big juicy steak, finishing a big juicy steak.
I disagree.
I've never even eaten a steak to applesauce consistency. I can't imagine.
I know. I think the best part about eating is like the complex flavor combinations in those very first few bites. If you get like that, like savory, rich, I made a roast chicken last night and it's so good. But like the first few bites are like the most satisfying. And then it's like, it's fine.
Wow. Applesauce.
Yeah. Applesauce consistency. But do a quick check-in, count your bites as you're chewing the first couple of bites and just see where your baseline is and add like 5 chews from there, and like just try to gradually work on it to increase it. So that's one thing you can do. And then balance your meals. Get protein with every meal. Get fiber, Okay, you're chewing your food really good. How much fiber are you getting? Track your food for a few days and just see where you're getting. I bet you're not getting the recommended amount. It's 25 grams for women, 30 grams for men. And most people who are pretty intentional with choosing healthy foods are getting like 15 to 20 grams a day. Most people who are not making very intentional food choices and eating a more processed food diet are getting maybe 5 to 10, maybe 15 grams a day. But getting that like 25 to 30 grams from real food, there's all those like low carb tortillas that are just packed with a ton of fiber added into them. I'm not a huge fan of that. Getting it from actual whole grains and vegetables and stuff.
So like one tortilla or I missed that. Were you talking about vegetables or grains?
Sorry. So a lot of people say, I'm getting tons of fiber in, but it's all from like processed foods. Like, have you ever seen those like low carb tortillas from the store?
Sure.
If you turn it over on the back, it actually has normally the same amount of carbs as a regular tortilla, like 20 or so grams. But what they've done is added a bunch of fiber into the ingredients and that brings up the fiber content, and the claim is actually about net carbs, so it's the total carbs minus the fiber, but you're not getting the fiber from a varied diet. You're getting it from 3 low carb tortillas and it's not the same. It's just not the same. It can help, it can help for sure, but if you have a lot of it, it can also cause GI distress, which is not good. But
what does that look like as far as I guess vegetables are concerned? You said 30 grams for men?
Yeah, for men.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's, like Jose was saying, you have a general plan and a general guideline. You got to modify it to each person, right? That's a general guideline. So you've got to modify it, find what works for you, but see where your baseline is and try and increase it and see how you feel from there. But yeah.
Is that like, I don't know, a couple carrots, an apple the size of a fist?
Yeah. So like half an avocado has 7 grams of fiber, which is pretty good. So I know. You wouldn't think the avocado has like that much fiber in it.
But still, puts in perspective. One avocado is 14, so at least 2.
Yeah, but that's like a lot of avocado.
I don't
want to eat 2 avocados, right? I think it's like a cup of broccoli has like 4 grams of fiber in it. So you have to be intentional. 2 tablespoons of chia seeds has 10 grams of fiber. So adding in some chia seed to, a salad or a smoothie or, oatmeal or something can be helpful. But yeah, choosing vegetables, whole grains, lentils, stuff like that is going to get you there.
I got to get off my protein shakes.
Yeah, there's probably not a lot of fiber in those. Make a smoothie instead with some protein powder. Add some, wild blueberries, some frozen
I
spinach,
have
cauliflower,
been eating
chia
smoothies.
seeds. Add in your protein powder.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel good all of a sudden.
Good. We came up with a solution.
I can't
like
say
it.
eating smoothies, can I?
Drinking a smoothie.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, drinking a smoothie. Yeah, that's a good question. So that's like the first thing we can do, right? Chew your food, balance your blood sugar, fiber, protein. Get some anti-inflammatory foods in. Food is information for your body. It's so friggin' cool. But you've got to give your body what it needs. Like we have food that can literally put out inflammatory fires. It's so cool, but you have to eat them. Omega-3 foods, salmon, nuts, avocados, olives, all of those are great. We don't get a lot of those. Colorful plants. Try and eat the rainbow, not from Skittles, but from colorful fruits and vegetables every week. Try and get at least one serving from each color group. Drink enough water. How much water are you drinking? Cut out the processed foods, stuff like that. And then supporting your nervous system, trying to make sure you have a balance of fight or flight and rest and digest. Your nervous system should flow throughout the day, getting good sleep, getting the right kind of movement for your body, breathing, not, breathing up in our shoulders, but really letting your stomach and diaphragm expand and breathe, getting into a good routine that you feel really comfortable with. All of those things can go a long ways in helping reduce inflammation, reducing that stress cup, helping to empty it out a little bit so it doesn't overflow. Any
good anti-inflammatory foods you can think of kind of off the bat?
Yeah, so those ones that I just mentioned, so anything with omega-3s is going to help reduce inflammation. We don't get enough omega-3 fatty acids in our diet. So wild-caught Alaskan salmon, nuts, chia seeds, flaxseed, colorful plants, all of those things are going to help reduce inflammation.
Gotcha.
Yeah, good question. I did get a question in the DMs. Oh my gosh, we're almost at 8. I did get a question in the DMs, so I wanted to make sure I answered, and then we can maybe jump into any questions from the chat too. I had someone reach out to me who was maybe feeling a little bit frustrated because they had been on some medication that then caused some weight gain, caused some A1C stuff to jump, and then also dealing with some chronic pancreatitis things. So kind of a lot of things out of their control, and feeling maybe a little bit frustrated with the current situation and not knowing what they could change. And I think that this is such a real and important question. I think a lot of people are feeling in this space where it's like, okay, maybe there's some things I can control, but there's a whole lot I can't, and those things that I can't control, I can't change, I feel like are really driving, the symptoms of pain that I'm experiencing. And again, I can't give personalized medical advice here, but I can speak generally. I think that this can be applied to a lot of different situations. So thank you for the question. So some medications can have side effects, right? Most medications have some sort of side effect. And so you always have to make that decision with your doctor of what the appropriate course of action is of going on to a certain medication and being aware of those potential risks and side effects from them. But things like increased weight, increased appetite, insulin resistance absolutely can come with that. They can raise your A1C and contribute to this just like metabolic inflammation fire that we've been talking about. And, the goal really here is kind of support, monitoring, and focusing on what you can take action towards. So kind of like what we were talking about a minute ago, what are some things you can control? I know like chronic pancreatitis, I'm not trying to equate you with my dog, but my precious dog, Coco, we lost her last October. She would have been 17.
Wow.
On January 21st, she would have been 17. She was my first baby. She suffered from chronic pancreatitis. So I have walked the path with somebody, even though it was a fluffy 4-legged somebody. And she did not have as many choices in her life as far as food goes. Unfortunately, in her opinion, because she loved a good snack. But, you do need to have, kind of watch what you're eating, a little or a lot more as far as fat tolerance, maybe some enzyme replacement, depending on, what's going on with your situation. So I do recommend you working with a GI doc if you're not already, a registered dietitian who is well-versed in these things. Not all dietitians are. It's like, with doctors, we kind of understand that there's different specialties, but then with dietitians, sometimes we just expect every dietitian to be a generalist, and that's not really the case. So seeking someone out who's experienced in this is something I'd recommend, because that does require very individualized care. But some of the things you can, start to look at are what's the quality of your diet? Are you choosing mostly whole foods? Are you getting protein? Are you getting fiber? Are you hydrating your body? Are you drinking water? Doing some strength supportive movement if you're able to. Jose talked a lot about this last night, but we know science shows us that by increasing muscle mass, it increases our tolerance to carbohydrates. It lowers our blood sugar. It reduces insulin resistance. So gaining some muscle, lifting weights, doing some resistance training, however you're able to, whether it's with body weight, starting low and slow, all of those things Jose gave great tips about last night. Highly recommend that. Sleep and stress support, whatever you need to do to support mental and emotional stress in your life can help reduce that overall burden. Doing what you need to do to get good quality sleep, turning off your phone at a certain point at night, wearing blue blocker glasses, getting sunshine first thing in the morning to kind of wake your body up and set your circadian rhythm, winding down at night, creating a nighttime routine. Our bodies like routine and consistency, and that can help support all of those things too. If we have high cortisol levels, that stress hormone, it actually increases the amount of insulin in our body. And whenever we have high insulin, our bodies turn off the ability to do lipolysis, which is the breakdown of fat. So doing everything we can, obviously the medication's not going to change, but every other thing we can to reduce that insulin, reduce blood sugar, is going to help. And then, working with your prescribing provider to make sure that those are the best meds for you, making sure that they're still the best fit for you. So, hopefully that helped you and gave you some good action steps there. And again, thank you for that question. All right, Kevin, how are we looking in the chat?
They're listening.
Good.
They're paying a lot of attention like me.
Good.
I think, and I might be able to speak for chat just a little bit on this. Chat, tell me if I'm wrong. Last night, the number one word was move, move, move. So I'm trying to think of what is the number one word takeaway from tonight. Nutrition?
Yeah. I would say microbiome.
Microbiome.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think if I had one word to sum up my existence as a dietitian, it would be microbiome. What are you doing to support your microbiome? Because if you're supporting your microbiome, you're supporting yourself too. And your microbiome will help support you. It'll augment what you're doing. It'll increase what you're doing. So what are you doing? And I didn't use this example. Sorry. I have kids too. So I speak in examples all the time.
No, that's good. That's good.
I think our microbiomes, if we think of them as our little pets inside of our tummies, we call them our good tummy bugs with my kids. We have to take care of our pets. We have to take care of our good tummy bugs. And so we need to make sure that they're fed and watered and not stressed out all the time and, moved and like go on walks, right? So that helps your microbiome too. So if you think about it as, I've got to take care of my good tummy bugs, what are you doing for them? And then they're going to do things for you in exchange. Microbiome.
Oh yeah, the microbiomes appearing in the chat.
Yay, I love it.
They're a great takeaway.
Yeah, good. Any other questions in the chat that we need to make sure we cover?
Chat, how are you guys feeling? What's more, I guess, fatiguing, the pain or the exhaustion that comes with the pain? Whether it's the stress or the getting around what you got to get around to get the meds you need or to get the help you need. What are you thinking out there? Do, do, do,
reading some of these too. So Judy Combs 7644 says, I know we're supposed to get plenty of fiber, but everything I read about gastroparesis and achalasia with GERD is to reduce fiber. It's worrisome when you have a history of colon cancer in the family. I recommend you working with a dietitian on this who knows about, the things that you're experiencing, because they can give you more personalized guidance. I think making blanket statements, whenever someone has making blanket recommendations, whenever someone has a lot going on like that, can be really harmful. So definitely needs to be personalized. All right. Let's see. I don't know. I think that we got a lot. What about, okay, I did have one question that I thought of that somebody might ask, because it's a question I get asked a lot in practice, and it's, where can I start if I feel stuck in a flare? And again, I gave you a really great exercise to start with, and it is making a list. What is my body protecting me from? Writing down all those stressors and identifying one or two that you can take one or two actions for to just start moving forward. Like Jose said, if you don't keep moving forward, you're going to, stagnate and go backwards eventually, because the world is moving forward. And so if you're standing still, you're going to start moving backwards and declining. We see it in our elderly population a lot. I always tell people, work for as long as you're able to. It's something you enjoy, so that you can contribute and feel needed. I think as soon as we see, people sit down, someone else, either Keith or not Keith, because he's going tomorrow, Jose, I was just reading Keith, your name, Jose or Dr. Leek said, it was a certain amount of time of being bedridden that they lost a ton of muscle. I can't remember who was saying it, but one of them was talking about that.
I think you mentioned it last night.
It was Jose last night saying it. Yeah. It's like that with anything in life, physical or, towards our goals or towards our health. And this has been kind of on my heart the last couple of days, that it's related but unrelated, but I just want to share it. I think something that people get confused about a lot with health, or misled into believing is true, is health is not linear. It's never linear. It's never going to be one direction. And health is not a destination. It's a state of being. You're never going to arrive at health and check the box and be done. Healthy is a state of being. It's how you are being. It's the decisions you make every single day. It's not based on one decision that you make or you don't make. Health is a state of being. So maybe that's where I should leave you guys with tonight if we don't have any other questions. I think that's a good...
I've got one now that you mentioned something like that. So state of being, let's look at the checkpoints. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's say an example. Me, multiple meals a day, or skipping a meal or two, or one big meal, for instance.
Yeah, I think that's personal. It needs to be personalized, Kevin. If you learn nothing, I'm kidding. No, I typically dissuade people from eating one big meal a day every day, because we tend to overburden the body with carbs and cause a huge spike in blood sugar, which is not great. Going on a 24-hour fast 1 day a week can be beneficial if someone is insulin resistant and really struggling. How you break that fast is really important. Choosing a lower carb, higher protein, higher fiber meal versus I haven't eaten in 24 hours, so I get to go eat, whatever it is that sounds incredible at that moment.
So you say breaking
being
the fast
intentional
is just as, if not more important than the fast
than
itself?
The fast itself. I like
Wow.
thank you for summing it up better than I did. Yes,
Wow.
The way you break the fast matters just as much, if not more, than the fast itself. Because it's kind of like a reset, right? You're resetting your body, and then it's that first information you're giving your body after that period. What is it going to go do with that information? It's really important. Yeah. Well,
and
hopefully,
then hold on to it.
Hopefully not skyrocket through the roof with your blood sugar.
So last one.
Yeah.
If I were to skip a meal,
Okay.
Because I'm notorious for it.
Okay.
Would it be better that I skip breakfast or better that I skip dinner?
Depends on your schedule. If you're, getting up early in the morning and running around and doing a ton of things, I think, eating a breakfast can be really helpful. I tend to say fasting over dinner is more beneficial, especially if you're going to eat more carbohydrates at dinner, because then you're going to go to sleep.
Right.
And you're not going to be actively burning off anything. It allows for greater rest and digest and repair overnight. Because if you go eat right before bed, your body is directing more blood flow to your gut to break down that meal that you just ate. Versus, if you haven't eaten in a while before bed, your body can then go repair tissue throughout itself at night while you're sleeping, which is the role of sleep.
So no beer before bed.
No beer before bed. Sorry. Go drink some chamomile tea. You'll feel better in the morning for sure.
I'll try that.
Feels good. So, good. All right. Well, what do you think? We about good to wrap it up here?
I think we did good.
Yeah.
I think from what people are telling or from what they're seeing in the chat, they've been paying very close attention.
Good. I'm glad. So let me just give a few key takeaways. So first, pain is real. Pain intensity doesn't always equal damage. Pain is not always visible. Stress and inflammation can ramp up that sensitivity and make your pain experience even higher. Supportive nutrition can help overall system health. There may not be an active explanation, but pain is, a cry for help from your body of some sort. So the solution is just trying to figure out what your body is asking for. If you've been feeling kind of frustrated by symptoms that just don't make sense, you're not alone. Hopefully you guys got some good information. And if you enjoyed tonight's show, we sure would appreciate your support over here by liking the show, sharing it with someone who you think would benefit from hearing it, subscribe to our channel. I think what we have going on here is really cool. I was reflecting on that on my way here, Jose and Dr. Leake's shows this week were just really phenomenal, and this channel I think is a huge blessing. So I hope that you guys are enjoying it. I'm grateful to be a part of it. Next week, we're talking about motivation, and if it's truly the missing ingredient to success. And then tomorrow on Keith's show, Invisible No More, you're going to want to make sure you tune in because he's going to be sharing what it's like to live in a body that everyone says is fine. So make sure you come. You can click the little button that says notify me to get notified when he's going live. But tomorrow night, 7 p.m., I think, Central, you got it. We'll tune in for that. So awesome.